There is a profound, almost ancient power in the concept of silence. We live in an era that is obsessively loud, a time where we are told that if a moment isn't documented, it didn't happen. We are conditioned to believe that our progress is only valid if it is validated by the applause of a digital crowd. But I am here to tell you that the most significant victories of your life will never be captured in a lens. They will not be announced with a trumpet. They will be won in the quiet, lonely hours when the world is asleep and you are the only witness to your own struggle. Winning in silence is not about being secretive for the sake of mystery. It is about protecting your energy. When you announce your plans to the world, you release a dopamine hit that tricks your brain into believing you've already achieved the goal. You receive the social credit for work you haven't even finished yet. But when you move in silence, that energy stays contained. It builds like steam in a pressure cooker. It becomes the raw fuel that drives you through the grueling repetitions, the late-night study sessions, and the early morning sacrifices that no one sees. Consider the life of a seed. A seed does not grow into a mighty oak by screaming at the forest floor or demanding attention from the sun before it has even sprouted. It sits in the dark, cold, damp earth. It breaks apart in total isolation. It pushes against the literal weight of the world in complete stillness. By the time the world sees the tree, the hardest part of the battle is already over. The victory was won underground, in the dark, where it was quiet. Most people fail because they want the crown without the cave. They want the stage without the many years of quiet preparation. But the silent win is where the character is forged. In silence, you cannot lie to yourself. There are no fans to cheer for your mediocre efforts, and there are no critics to blame for your failures. There is only you and the work. When you choose to win in silence, you are making a pact with your own soul. You are saying, I don't need your approval to know my worth. I don't need your likes to know my progress. This creates an unshakable foundation of self-trust. When you finally emerge, you aren't just a winner. You are a person who has mastered the art of self-validation. We often mistake noise for movement. We think that because we are talking about our dreams, we are getting closer to them. But noise is usually a distraction. It's a way to avoid the terrifying reality of the work. Silence, on the other hand, is the ultimate filter. It clears the air of the opinions of people who don't even have a seat at your table. It allows you to hear the subtle whispers of your own intuition. When you stop broadcasting your every move, you notice that your focus sharpens. Your vision becomes high definition. You start to see the gaps in your strategy that you were too busy to notice when you were crafting your next public announcement. Silence is a weapon. It keeps your competitors guessing and your detractors confused. While they are busy trying to figure out your next move, you have already moved 3 steps past them. You are not performing for an audience. You are executing a mission. There is a specific kind of peace that comes with winning in silence. It is the peace of knowing that your success belongs entirely to you and those who are in the trenches with you. It is the realization that you don't owe the world an explanation for your greatness. You let your results do the talking. Let your bank account, your physique, your peace of mind, and your impact be the noise. Until then, stay in the shadows. Fall in love with the process of disappearing for a while and coming back as a version of yourself that no one recognized. This is not about being antisocial, it is about being pro-purpose. It is about understanding that the loudest person in the room is often the weakest, while the quietest person is often the one who owns the building. True power doesn't need to shout. It simply exists. It simply wins. Furthermore, we must understand the spiritual cost of talking too much. Every time you share a vision that hasn't been manifested yet, you leak the vital force required to build it. You are essentially giving away the blueprint of your house before the foundation is even poured. There are people in your life who, even if they love you, do not have the capacity to hold your vision. Their doubts, their limited perspectives, and their own fears will leak into your silence if you let them. By keeping your mouth shut, you create a sterile environment where your ambition can grow without being infected by the mediocrity of others. Silence is your sanctuary. It is the laboratory where you experiment, fail, and iterate without the pressure of external judgment. When you fail in silence, you have the grace to pick yourself up without feeling the shame of a public defeat. This allows you to take bigger risks. It allows you to be bolder. When no one is watching, you are free to be truly experimental. You are free to find the version of success that actually fits you, rather than the one that looks best on a resume or a social feed. Winning in silence also builds a level of grit that is rare in today's world. It is the grit of the long-distance runner who trains in the rain when no one is at the finish line. It is the grit of the writer who fills journals that may never be read. This invisible work creates a density in your spirit. You become heavy. You become difficult to move. When you eventually step into the spotlight, you won't be blown away by the first gust of criticism because your roots go deep into the silent years. You know who you are because you spent time being no one while working to become someone. You have faced the demons of boredom, the ghosts of doubt, and the sirens of distraction, and you have defeated them all without a single witness. That is true victory. That is the essence of winning in silence. It is the understanding that the most important conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself in the mirror at 4:00 a.m. If that person is proud of you, the rest of the world's opinion is just background noise. Moving forward into the heart of this journey, we must confront the tactical reality of what it looks like to sustain a life of silent victory. Winning in silence is the ultimate test of human discipline because it lacks the crutch of external accountability. It is easy to work hard when the boss is watching, when the coach is screaming, or when you have promised your followers a massive transformation. In those moments, your ego drives you because you are afraid of the public shame of failure. But it is infinitely harder to work when no one cares, when the view count on your struggle is zero, and when the only person who will know if you took a shortcut is you. This is where the elite are separated from the average. The elite understand that excellence is a private habit, a sacred ritual performed in the absence of an audience. They understand that a win isn't a singular event that happens on a stage. It is actually 1,000 tiny, boring, unglamorous moments stacked on top of each other. The discipline of silence is the decision to eat the right meal when you are home alone and the kitchen is dark. It is the decision to read one more chapter when your eyes are heavy and no one is there to quiz you. It's the decision to keep your mouth shut when someone insults you, because you have realized that reacting would be a catastrophic waste of the precious energy you need to fuel your goals. When you win in silence, you are practicing the highest form of self-respect. You are saying that your standards are not dictated by your environment, but by your identity. This builds a psychological fortress. Most people are environmental performers. They are only as good as the people around them. If they are in a room of losers, they become the best of the losers. If they are in a room of winners, they try to keep up. But the silent winner is an internal performer. Their pace is set by a fire that burns within, regardless of whether they are in a crowded stadium or a basement office. Silence teaches you the invaluable lesson of internal validation. If you rely on the world to tell you that you are doing a good job, you have effectively given the world the power to tell you that you are a failure. You have handed the keys to your self-esteem to people who don't know your heart, your history, or your hurdles. But when you win in silence, you develop an internal compass that is calibrated to truth rather than trends. You know you are winning because the numbers are moving, your skills are sharpening, and your mind is becoming more resilient. You don't need a good job from a stranger on the internet to feel successful because you have the data of your own progress. This makes you dangerous in the best way possible. It makes you unmanipulatable. When you don't crave the spotlight, you cannot be blinded by it. You can stay in the game longer than anyone else because you aren't burning out trying to keep up appearances or manage a public persona that hasn't caught up to your reality. You are fueled by the results themselves, and results are the most addictive substance known to man. There is also a massive strategic advantage to silence, the element of surprise. In the world of chess, you don't announce your strategy 3 moves before you make it. In the world of business, you don't reveal your product until it is ready to disrupt the market. Why should your life be any different? When you work in the dark, you don't give your enemies a chance to sabotage you. You don't give the naysayers a chance to plant seeds of doubt in your mind before your idea is strong enough to survive the frost. Every time you share a dream with a small-minded person, you are handing them a pair of scissors to clip your wings. They will tell you why it won't work, how someone else failed at it, or why you aren't the right person for the job. Why would you subject your fragile dreams to that kind of toxicity? Keep your plans behind a closed door. Let people assume you've given up. Let them think you've fallen off or that you've lost your spark. Their underestimated view of you is actually your greatest asset. While they are relaxing because they think you are no longer a threat, you are refining your blade. You are building an empire in the backyard while they are arguing over the fence. There is no greater feeling than the look on the faces of those who counted you out when you finally unveil a finished masterpiece they didn't even know you were working on. Winning in silence is also about the maturity of your ego. The ego is a hungry ghost. It wants to be seen, it wants to be right, and it wants to be the center of attention. But the soul wants to grow. And growth often requires the pruning of the ego. To win in silence, you must kill your ego every single day. You must be okay with being the underdog even when you know you are the alpha. You must be comfortable with people not knowing how much you actually know. There is a certain secret joy in being the most competent person in the room while everyone else assumes you're just another face in the crowd. That is the ultimate flex. It's not about the jewelry, the loud clothes, or the aggressive posture. It's about the quiet confidence of a person who knows they have already done the work. When the opportunity finally presents itself, you don't have to get ready because you stayed ready in the silence. You step into the light, and the world is shocked by your overnight success, not knowing it was 5, 10, or 15 years in the making. Finally, the discipline of silence allows you to master your emotions. When you aren't performing for others, you don't feel the need to defend yourself. When someone misinterprets your silence for weakness, you don't feel the urge to correct them. You realize that your time is too valuable to be spent on explanations. You start to see that most arguments are just a battle of egos, and since you've already mastered yours, you can simply walk away. This emotional sobriety is a superpower. It allows you to keep your head while everyone else is losing theirs. It allows you to stay focused on the objective while others are distracted by the drama. In the silence, you learn that the only person you are truly competing against is the version of yourself from yesterday. And as long as that person is being outpaced, you are winning. This is the grind. This is the invisible work. This is the process of becoming a ghost to the world so that you can become a giant to yourself. In this final movement of our journey, we must look toward the horizon and examine the long-term impact of choosing the path of silence over the path of noise. What happens when the season of hiding ends? What happens when you finally arrive and the world is forced to acknowledge the magnitude of what you have built? The beauty of having won in silence is that you are now forever immune to the traps of fame, praise, and the fickle nature of public opinion. Because you built your house in the dark, you know exactly how every single foundation stone was laid. You aren't afraid of the wind, and you aren't afraid of the rain, because you didn't build your identity on the shifting sands of external approval. You have a level of depth and substance that people who chase the noise can never hope to understand. You have a silent reservoir of strength to draw from when the inevitable storms of life return. Winning in silence fundamentally changes the nature of your relationships and your social architecture. When you stop talking about what you're going to do and start showing what you've already done, the people around you begin to shift. You find that you no longer have time for the dream talkers, those people who spend all their energy at coffee shops discussing big ideas but never taking a single step toward execution. Instead, you begin to attract other silent winners. You find a tribe of people who value execution over explanation. People who understand that a nod of the head is often more meaningful than a 1,000-word speech. These are the people who will help you reach the next level. You stop attracting the fans who only love you for your highlight reel, and you start attracting partners who respect your process. You realize that real power moves in quiet, tight circles. The most important deals in the world are signed in quiet rooms. The most world-changing ideas are born in moments of quiet reflection, not in the middle of a shouting match. By mastering the art of silence, you have positioned yourself to enter these circles of influence. You have proven that you can handle secrets, that you can handle pressure, and most importantly, that you can handle yourself. Moreover, winning in silence is the greatest gift you can ever give to your future self. It is the intentional act of building a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. We are currently facing a global mental health crisis because everyone is living for the outer world. People are winning on the screen but losing in the mirror. They have thousands of followers but zero friends they can call at 3,000 a.m. They have the aesthetic of success but the reality of anxiety. When you prioritize the silent win, you reverse this toxic dynamic. You might be losing on the screen. Maybe you aren't posting every day. Maybe you aren't trending. Maybe people are asking where you went. But you are winning in the mirror. You are waking up with a profound sense of purpose that doesn't require a Wi-Fi connection. You are going to bed with a sense of peace that no amount of money can buy. You are developing a relationship with yourself that is based on raw integrity. Integrity is simply doing what you said you were going to do when absolutely no one is looking. That is the definition of winning in silence. There is also a legacy of mystery that follows the silent winner. When you don't over-explain yourself, you allow your work to take on a life of its own. Think of the greatest artists, the most successful investors, and the most impactful leaders. They rarely spend their time defending their choices to the masses. They let the work stand as its own defense. When you live this way, you become a quiet giant. You become someone whose presence is felt the moment they walk into a room, even if they never say a word. People can sense the years of discipline radiating off of you. They can sense the invisible miles you've run and the unseen hours you've put in. This kind of respect cannot be bought, and it certainly cannot be posted. It must be earned in the trenches of the silent grind. This legacy is what stays behind when you are gone. People won't remember your tweets or your status updates. They will remember the weight of your character and the tangible results of your labor. So, I challenge you today as we close this chapter, disappear. I don't mean leave your family or quit your job. I mean disappear from the culture of look at me. Disappear from the need to be understood by people who aren't even going where you're going. Audit your words with the precision of a surgeon. Look at how much of your precious life force is spent talking about the life you want versus actually building the life you want. If the ratio is off, and for most of us, it is shut your mouth, close the apps, go back to the lab, go back to the gym, go back to the books, embrace the perceived boredom of the grind. Find the hidden beauty in the solitude. Understand that you are not missing out on the world. You are building a world that others will eventually move mountains just to be a part of. The roar of your success will eventually be so loud that you won't need to say a single word. Your life will be the testimony. Your results will be the speech. Your character will be the message. Go out there and win. Not for the cameras, but for the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. Not for the noise of the crowd, but for the silence of the soul. Because in the end, the loudest and most beautiful applause you will ever hear is the one that happens inside your own heart when you finally cross that finish line. Look back at the mountain you climbed in total isolation and realize that you did exactly what you said you would do, even when the world thought you were doing nothing at all. That is the power of winning in silence. That is how you become a legend. That is how you change the world without saying a word.